Cowardly Lion. One of the hardest things to do is follow your own advice. Before drawing a lion-inspired character, I took some time to brush up on lion anatomy. This helped me a lot. It's easy to think you remember things you've studied in the past, but as I've said before, it's not like riding a bike. It's like holding a fistful of sand. It's constantly falling out. So back to the basics to brush up. For those who have been following this project for any amount of time, it should come as no surprise that the lion is going to be a chimera, specifically a Sphinx. The fallen angel watcher known as Oz has been performing nightmarish experiments, attempting to defeat death. While the conditions of the Earth in the antediluvian era can allow for lifespans to last for centuries, they do still come to an end. He watched creation take place with his own eyes, and he has been trying to unravel the genetic notes and melodies of organic life. If he succeeds, he can create his own life, freed from the Creator's built-in mortality limit. That's the hope, anyway. The lion was one of a host of attempts to mix genes like paint. Working on the scarecrow in the last video was a good reminder that while it's all well and good to design a character, presenting them like an object in a catalog just isn't enough. I took the time to redraw the scarecrow to give him more life. For the Sphinx, I started drawing him just standing there. But when doing my lion research, I found a great shot of a lion hunched over looking forlorn. It was exactly the feel I was looking for. If this does eventually become a character in Dead Gods, in some form or other, I'll take some time to draw the model sheet version, where we can see all the important details. For now, I'm happy to sacrifice those details for the sake of character. For his wings, I had every reason to give him actual living wings. Thematically, they would be perfect to show the mad, magical science aspect of his creation. But again, while doing some research, there were a lot of great classical Sphinx references that had these simplified, almost geometrical wings. They were the perfect opportunity to pull in the antediluvian Art Deco flavor. The design language of Art Deco is the perfect way to show that this world was more advanced than we typically imagine, and that it's an empire enamored with its own power that doesn't know it's reached its peak. While the oxidized copper worked fine, I also wanted to lean more on the green uranium glass as an obvious connection to the Emerald City. In my earlier sketches, I was going to make him an abomination, a failed chimera, swollen and covered in a sheet. Instead, I thought it would be crueler if the experiment was actually successful. But Oz told him he was a failure. He's forced to wear an Art Deco-inspired face mask to continue the lie. It opens up the obvious narrative opportunity that when he finds his courage, his true face is revealed. I finished him off with some scars. The wizard created him as an experiment and was glad to show him off for a time, but eventually he tired of his little folly and shut him away in his laboratory temple dungeons. I also created a brand for Oz, burned onto the lion's shoulder. So there we have it, the antediluvian cowardly lion. I'm thinking that next up will be the Tin Man. I started redesigning characters as a way to create design content for the videos while I work through sections of the story that don't require design work. I'm so glad that I did. The more of them I create, the more I'm pushed to explore what could be possible in this setting. I'm already drowning in ideas for future episodes, but now I have way more. Now onto page 7. Okay, you guys, I'm going to try something different this time. I wrote, recorded, and edited, and uploaded a version of this that didn't work. It was a bit much. Maybe one day I'll show you what it was, but it's not that time yet. So I was going to sit down and write version 2, and I was watching back over the footage, and I thought I could talk over the footage and give kind of a running commentary. It's nice to finally reach this stage where the shipwright's plan is now fully in motion and the reader should be starting to apprehend what's going on. One of the reasons I wanted to create this scenario was to show off who the shipwright is. He's very proficient with an axe. He has a century of experience of hewing trees. So again, in the vein of showing, not telling. In this shot with the screaming dragon, his voice has been echoing. There's multiple voices speaking at the same time, and I thought of this as the moment when he's losing composure. The cohesion of those voices is starting to break down. In a panic, they're starting to shout out on their own. They're starting to cooperate less elegantly. The shipwright finally breaks the branch. This panel is another great example of the things that you wouldn't ever necessarily choose to draw, but are helpful beats, connecting moment to moment. They're critical to show the progression and the action of what's taking place. And I wanted this to be his final swing, so he's at his most hunched over. His whole body is in that impact. I've been using some rough 3D models of human bodies to just get a general idea of the pose. I'm very apprehensive about relying too heavily on 3D for the anatomy. I can find it tends to stiffen things too much, so often I'll just try to use it as a very vague reference, just to make sure my own guesses at perspective are not wildly off. Each one of these shots, in my mind, what they're doing is just helping to build up anticipation. Clever readers have pieced together what's coming a few panels back, but this is just kind of building, rising, and for over a year, I've wanted to have the shipwright use the Genesis 3:15 prophecy as almost like an old 90s movie action catchphrase. It's something that his enemies hate more than almost anything. And rather than trying to say something clever himself, he quotes what they hate most, kind of just rubbing salt on the wound, that they are sure they're ascendant, but this one phrase just gets their blood boiling. Couple of close-up details just to get, again, the flavor of the action. These ones I actually drew in the wrong ratio. The actual final panels will be narrower. You can see it at the end, but thankfully, compositionally, they still work. And for this shot, I wanted to have speed lines. I didn't want to draw them entirely freehand, so I found a compromise where in Photoshop, you don't see it here, but I would rotate the canvas by hand just a little bit, and every time draw a straight line vertically from the little red dot that I put on the dragon's forehead. And that allowed me to vary the pen pressure as I drew so that the lines they're very straight, but they don't feel perfectly mathematical. They still have that hand-drawn, quasi-calligraphic quality to them. So it still has that handmade touch that I'm looking for. And at the very last moment with this one, when looking at the final page, I actually had realized that it was too similar to the panel above it. The dragon was still too far away, so I blew up that layer in Photoshop just to bring the dragon and the spike closer together. But that's page 7. Page 8, which was going to be the finale, is now plotted out into 2 pages. I had to rewrite everything about it. I thought I could just move a few panels around and squeeze things in, but I decided to overhaul it entirely. But I like how it ends now much more. It has more breathing room. And as I often like to do, I took a look at everything in context so far. I find it helpful and kind of satisfying. You sort of need to stick your head up and look back at how far you've come. This is all of the comic portion of Dead Gods so far, not to mention all of the design work, and this is just purely comic. And as it does, when you chip away at it a day at a time, it really does start stacking up. Anyway, thank you for your patience with this informal, impromptu, unscripted approach. My guess is it's not likely to be the norm. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.